Welcome into On Your Feed. You scroll through short videos and big headlines on social media every day.
We are here to take you beyond the scroll and give you the context behind the stories everyone's talking about. I'm Sophia Pericone.
And I'm Heather Pauloff. This week, we are hearing a chilling 911 call to the Toledo Zoo, introducing you to the reason thousands of people were flocking to Northwest Ohio and learning why the smell of fresh cut grass can be so addicting.
But we start with a Lenawee County man convicted of killing his wife and then hiding her body. Now, Dale Warner will spend the rest of his life in prison.
A judge handed down the sentence Thursday morning. This story is all about the life of Dee Warner. Dee went missing in April of 2021.
Authorities charged Dale with murder more than 2 years later, but still hadn't found Dee. It took another year to find her body welded inside a fertilizer tank.
Now, just days ago, a judge handed down Dale's sentence. Melissa Andrews has been tracking the case since the very beginning.
We met with the assistant prosecutor just as he was walking afterwards just to clarify the sentence. The judge did impose the maximum penalty under Michigan law for second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. So that means Dale Warner will serve up to 70 years in prison because the judge elected to sentence him consecutively on the two charges, and he will not be eligible for parole when you do all the math and the time served until 30 years from today, so he'll be 88 years old. I thought it was particularly a very emotional sentencing. To hear from the children in depth about how much trauma this caused, not only them, but their young sister, Lena. I think this was the first time we heard it to this extent as to how, they likely knew that Dee Warner was dead, but to have that lingering doubt, especially the young daughter, Lena, who was only 9 at the time, that Dee had left them, that abandoned them, and the whole time Dale Warner was manipulating them to think this while he had sealed her in this tank just a mile down the road, and the trauma that this had caused. And the judge talked about how he had read a letter from Lena's doctor and took that into consideration, the irreparable harm that this has caused that some may never be able to recover from. So I'm going to be thinking a lot about that as I prepare my story for later tonight. I also noticed that one of the jurors was there, so I caught up with him out on the street, and I did get an interview with him, so I'm going to share that later tonight at 5 and 6 as well. But these things are always very emotional. I just think much more so even than the trial, just for the family to be able to speak on how horrific it was for Dee to be missing for 3 years and be found in that tank, and the stepfather of theirs for 20 years to have known the whole time. So I think that was the focus for today. The judge came down on Dale Warner, and I think a lot of it was a punishment for the concealing of this crime and the manipulation that he did.
And you can find Melissa's story on our website, WTOL.com. Now, just before the judge handed down that sentence, the prosecution and defense argued over who would be allowed to make victim impact statements.
The defense said Dee's children and brother would be allowed, but wanted to prevent her nephew and others from addressing the court.
Judge Michael Olsaver ultimately allowed 2 others who were close to Dee, but excluded some others.
Then Dee's children and families spoke about the years of pain, betrayal, and emotional trauma they endured after Dale told them their mother had abandoned them.
Here we are, finally, the day of judgment for Dale Warner. Some things in life, no matter how young or old, we can't understand why. Life and death. 2 most important things that happen to every single one of us. We never know when we are chosen to leave this earth, but I have learned that the horrific word murder is not one we can ever imagine would happen in a lifetime.
And I am Dee's youngest adult daughter. I am also the mother of 3 of Dee's beautiful grandchildren. My mom was blessed to meet 2 of them, but my youngest will only know her through the stories we share. She was my first child care provider for my older 2 children, and caring for her grandchildren brought her so much joy. After her tragic death, I was left without child care for my 6-month-old baby, and my siblings had to help me pick up the pieces. That is just one of many ways her loss continues to affect our family every single day.
Dale Warner will no longer have control or influence over anything that matters. The damage he has caused will take years to repair. Some will recover slowly, others never will. There are people whose lives were altered, whose futures diminished because of his selfish and deliberate actions. And then there's our mother, Dee. He took her life. He tried to erase her, but he failed. She was more than just a person. She was the force behind everything he became. He cannot destroy what she created, the lives she shaped, the relationships she built, and the passion she poured into everything.
Every night for over 3 years, until he was finally arrested, I restlessly tried to sleep, with one eye open because of the fear of what Dale Warner would do next. Unfortunately, over those next 3 years, while it will never be proven, unfortunately, I know for the fact that Dale Warner proceeded to attempt to torture myself and my family by violently vandalizing the very farm that was bringing justice to his wife and proving him guilty.
Dale John Warner, you're a narcissistic, psychopathic liar and murderer. Your lack of any remorse for brutally killing my sister is unforgivable and deserves to be punished by the fullest extent of the law, and you certainly deserve more. The barbaric act of covering up your crime by welding my sister in a cold steel tomb is beyond human.
And again, after those victim impact statements, the judge sentenced Dale Warner to up to 70 years in prison.
In a statement to WTOL 11, Warner's defense team says he is disappointed in the verdict and plans to appeal.
Another big story from this week, it was election day in both Ohio and Michigan.
Voters turned down new money requests for some of our Big 11 school districts and decided which candidates will face off to decide the future of Ohio in November. The race for Ohio's next governor is now set. Current Governor Mike DeWine is term limited. Ohio will vote on the next governor this November. But in the Republican primary, Vivek Ramaswamy pretty much swept against Casey Putsch. Vivek will now run against Dr. Amy Acton in November. Dr. Acton ran unopposed in this May primary. Ramaswamy won all of Ohio's 88 counties, including Seneca County. Now, focusing on this one specifically, because Putsch is from Seneca County, that's where he brought in just 30.3% of the vote versus Ramaswamy's 69.7%. Another big race we're following here in Northwest Ohio is the race for Ohio's 9th congressional district seat. This has been held by Democrat Marcy Kaptur since the 80s, and now we know that Republican Derek Marin, will face Kaptur in November. This is a rematch. Derek Marin narrowly lost to Marcy Kaptur in 2024. And yesterday during the Republican primary, he brought in 44% of the vote. That's compared to Josh Williams's 25%, Madison Sheehan, Deputy ICE Director, her 20%. But Marin didn't win every county for this district. Josh Williams actually won Paulding County with 46% of the votes. And Madison Sheehan won Ottawa County with 38% of the votes. Derek Marin not far behind there. Sheehan is actually from Ottawa County. Now these races are set. Derek Marin goes up against Marcy Kaptur in November. Vivek Ramaswamy takes on Dr. Amy Acton in November. And another big race we are tracking right now, former Senator Sherrod Brown brought home a big win in the Democratic Senate race. Brown is looking to return to Washington after losing his re-election bid in 2024.
He'll face Republican John Husted in November. Husted became a U.S. Senator earlier this year after Governor Mike DeWine appointed him to fill the seat left vacant by Vice President J.D. Vance. Lucas County decided on 2 new money requests from local schools.
Both Sylvania and Springfield had levies on the May ballot, and voters said no to both those requests.
Neither race was even close. Almost 60% of voters in both districts said they do not want to pay more.
Michael Sandlin sat down with University of Toledo political science professor Sam Nelson to find out why.
It all comes down to money. That's what Dr. Sam Nelson says motivated Lucas County voters to shoot down school levies in Sylvania and Springfield on Tuesday. And he says the root of it is the sky-high price of home values.
And they really have gone up quite a bit in the last few years. That's a good thing. You've got more equity, but it also means your property taxes are going up as your home valuation is going up. So people already feel like they're paying a lot more property tax. And so then when you come with a levy request, it's like, well, why even more?
And now Dr. Nelson says that feeling is reaching a fever pitch.
And there's a general atmosphere in the entire state that property taxes are a problem. There's a push for an anti-property tax amendment. And so it's very much in the air.
And that atmosphere is bad news for districts like Sylvania local schools, who said in a press release to district parents the morning after the May primary that rising operation costs and inflation mean they will not be able to, quote, operate at the level students deserve without new revenue. State Senator Paula Hicks Hudson says it saddens her to see schools put in this position, but she doesn't point the finger at voters for being tired of increased property taxes. She blames the leaders in Columbus for making the state rely on it.
We have schools doing really great things, really awesome things, and the state legislature, my colleagues, not me, but my colleagues have systematically gone to keep that burden of financing schools on the property taxpayers. They have gutted the fair funding plan that would have reduced the need for local school districts to rely on property taxes. And so it is a shame.
Lucas County voters did say yes to an increase to pay for 911 emergency services and to a decrease by the Toledo Zoo.
But another school levy in Evergreen failed by fewer than 100 voters. Otsego schools managed to pass a 0.25% income tax.
You can find a full breakdown right now on WTOL.com. Check out the results in your community and those local issues you may have missed.
You've seen the signs and probably paid the price, but rising gas prices aren't just hitting your wallet, they're now putting pressure on local school districts.
As the war with Iran continues, concerns about shipping through the Strait of Hormuz have helped drive oil prices up worldwide.
And here at home, districts say they're burning through their fuel budgets just to keep buses on the road. Here's Laura Sandlin.
The rising cost of fuel is now putting strain on local schools around the area, including schools like Anthony Wayne. Now, we spoke with officials from both Anthony Wayne as well as Maumee City Schools, and they tell us that just last month, Maumee was paying $3.84 per gallon of diesel. That was up almost $2 compared to what they paid back in January of $1.84. Now, they are paying less than the average driver because they are ordering in bulk. However, they're saying that balancing these changes all comes with budgeting for the unexpected. Anthony Wayne Schools budgeted $380,000 for the 25-26 school year, and so far, they've spent $332,000 for diesel. The district says they buy their fuel in bulk and that they're storing 2 diesel tanks, which is 22,000 gallons. Anthony Wayne also stores 1 gasoline tank, which holds 6,000 gallons of gas. The superintendent says if costs continue to rise, they may have to adjust their fuel budget for next year because cutting transportation just isn't an option. Right now, Anthony Wayne runs 34 regular bus routes, 8 midday routes, and 2 van routes for more than 2,000 students. That comes out to 3,000 miles per day, not including extracurriculars. Anthony Wayne's treasurer says they know everyone is facing the challenges of rising gas prices right now, but the school is doing what they can to balance the budget. Now, both Anthony Wayne and Maumee say that they're not planning to make any drastic changes to their transportation right now, but rather they're going to be keeping an eye on prices and then working from there.
Let's take a look at the price at the pump right now. Some good news. AAA reports those prices are actually falling.
Diesel is still at $5.66 a gallon across the country, but it is closer for $6 in both Ohio and Michigan.
As for regular unleaded, you can expect to pay around $4.81 in Lucas County, and then the same into Michigan around Lenawee County.
Gas Buddy now says that we could see some relief soon as operations resume anyway at an Indiana refinery. An analyst there predicts gas prices could drop 20 to 40 cents a gallon over the next 2 weeks, and those diesel prices could fall 25 to 60 cents.
But he cautions issues near the Strait of Hormuz could continue to cause instability.
A well-known Toledo trauma surgeon says he's been shut out of the career he built over decades.
Now he's suing the University of Toledo and several of its leaders, claiming they violated his rights and damaged his reputation. Tim Miller is on your feed.
A former trauma surgeon says the University of Toledo destroyed his life, and he's taking several officials related to the university to court. Dr. Nabil Ibrahim says he was wrongfully forced into retirement. For the last 3 years, Dr. Ibrahim says he has not been able to do what he loves, being a trauma surgeon at the University of Toledo Medical Center. He claims the university forced him to retire over billing irregularities. Dr. Ibrahim denies any billing wrongdoing and says he agreed to retire as long as the university provided an independent review to potentially clear his name. He says U Toledo never provided that independent person.
I devoted my life for that. I gave it all my life. It was my calling, but they took it away without a just cause.
The lawsuit specifically names the current and former U Toledo presidents and several other university leaders, accusing them of constitutional due process violations. A spokesperson told us U Toledo is declining to comment on this pending litigation.
WTOL 11 also previously reported a judge convicted Ibrahim of vehicular manslaughter after hitting and killing a motorcyclist in dense fog back in 2013.
The incident happened. Ibrahim drove to surgery at UTMC. The court eventually suspended his 90-day jail sentence and fined him $750. A bomb threat and reports of possible gunfire forced a mass evacuation at the Toledo Zoo.
Hundreds of visitors, including school children, rushed out of the zoo as police swarmed into the area.
Officers later determined that there was no active threat, but the chaotic moments leading up to that response were captured in these raw 911 calls.
911, where's your emergency?
The Toledo Zoo. My name is Sean Weimer. I'm the Director of Security.
Okay, what's the address?
605 Broadway. Julie, what address are we using
I'm
for
for
this?
2700 Broadway. Is there like a specific location?
No, I would just have them come to the Broadway entrance. So long story short is we just took a phone call of a bomb threat and somebody that said they're coming to the zoo to shoot it up. So we need officers to respond.
Okay.
And also probably the bomb threat.
Okay, what's your name?
Sean Weimer.
Sean, with security you said?
Yeah, I'm the Director of Security.
And they said they were just gonna...
He's the safety manager.
Did you get a phone number from the call?
Julie. Unknown. It came in unknown.
And they're coming to the location to blow up the place?
Can you come in here to help give specifics on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so Joe took the original call. I jumped in. They said that there's pipe bombs in the zoo. They're bringing more bombs in backpacks. There's, what did they say, 5 of them?
Yeah.
And they're also going to bring guns, and they want to shoot people and animals. I asked why. They said for fun.
Okay. And we don't have any idea where it came from?
No, it said caller ID unknown.
Okay. And what's a good phone number for you, Sean?
You want my cell?
I could have any number that I need to get a hold of you at. And what, did you actually speak to him? Like, did he sound white, black, Hispanic, Asian, anything?
My foreign accent.
It was definitely a foreign accent.
Field of bomb threat, that's what he.
Okay. Did you hear anything in the background, like any?
No, it was pretty darn quiet in the background.
Okay.
I was trying to. I kept him on the phone for quite a while. He gave me a name, but I couldn't understand it. I wouldn't give me a last name. I couldn't hear anything in the background.
Okay.
But he just kept going on about, how there's bombs all over the zoo. They're going to bring more. They're going to bring guns, shoot people and animals for fun.
Okay. Okay, we will get them out there right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sean. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Toledo Zoo isn't the only one dealing with these threats.
Zoos in Akron, Cleveland, Columbus, and several other states have also been targeted by similar hoax calls. The FBI says so-called swatting incidents are a growing national problem, costing thousands of dollars, diverting emergency resources, and putting people at risk.
As of last check, authorities have not tracked down whoever is responsible for the hoax.
For decades, Lucas County leaders have debated whether the county needs a new jail.
Now, after scrapping a nearly $300 million plan for a new facility last year, county leaders say they may have a different path forward.
Megan Hartnett breaks down a new study and what it could mean for the future of the jail.
There's a new potential price tag for repairs on the Lucas County Jail, and it's in the tens of millions of dollars. A new study commissioned by the county shows it could cost about $63 to $73 million for repairs. And again, that's just fixing what's already there. It would mean fixing windows, security, locks, plumbing, things like that. What it doesn't include is any renovations or remodeling to the jail. This plan comes after commissioners decided to not move forward with building a new jail back in the summer. That price tag was $300 million. Commissioner Pete Gerken says he's satisfied with this plan, but Sheriff Mike Navarre, on the other hand, isn't so sure it'll meet the long-term goals for the jail. Sheriff Navarre argues if the layout changes, he could cut staffing and save millions per year. So now the question is, make repairs or make bigger changes while they're at it.
Faith Zahowski reporting there. So how did we get here? The current jail opened back in 1977. And by the 1980s, a judge ordered it to cap its inmate population after it quickly became overcrowded.
Then in 2014, a court ordered the county to release nonviolent offenders as leaders pushed for a new facility. The county bought property for a new jail off of Angola Road in 2017, but voters rejected any plan to relocate out of downtown in 2018.
Then just 3 years ago in 2023, Lucas County broke ground on a new jail across from the current site, but later scrapped the project over rising costs.
Now we're back to that potential plan to renovate the current jail.
This week marked World Asthma Day. It's a global effort to raise awareness about a condition that affects millions of people.
And that list included many right here in our area, and it's a cause that's actually very personal to me.
If you are someone who suffers from asthma, then you know exactly what that feeling is that has you reaching for one of these. I was recently diagnosed with asthma, so this is something that I want everyone to know, whether you suffer from asthma or if you just find yourself not being able to breathe one day. Asthma is a chronic lung disease that affects both kids and adults. It often starts in childhood, but it can develop at any time. It causes symptoms like wheezing, coughing, chest tightness, and shortness of breath. During an asthma attack, the airways swell and narrow, making it harder to get air in and out of your lungs. It's important to know your triggers, which can be smoke, dust, allergies, or respiratory infections. I'm still learning my triggers, but some of them include anxiety, as well as exercise. If I overexert myself, maybe doing a lot of yard work outside, that triggers an asthma attack for me almost every single time. If you are diagnosed with asthma, it is really important to develop a treatment plan with your doctor to help cut down on those asthma attacks and manage those triggers. If you've never been diagnosed with asthma before, but you find yourself struggling to breathe on a regular basis, or you just don't feel like something is right, talk to your doctor and ask to be tested for asthma.
It actually took me over a year to be diagnosed with asthma, multiple trips to the doctor, a couple of times to the ER for not being able to breathe. Finally, I went to a pulmonologist and they were like, let's get you tested. And I was surprised to find that I actually did have asthma. And now that I'm managing it, it is a huge difference. It can be scary when you're unable to breathe and you don't know why.
I can't imagine. And thanks for sharing that very personal story with us. But happy to hear now that you know you have it, you know how to control it. And I know you have an inhaler like you mentioned in the video. So
yeah,
really happy to hear you're having it under control.
And that's all because I asked my doctor to investigate further. Well, one of the biggest events in the birding world is about to take flight right here in Northwest Ohio.
The biggest week in American birding returns as thousands of visitors head to our area to watch spring migration peak along the Lake Erie shoreline.
And as Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers shows us, the region sits right in the middle of one of the most important bird migration paths in the country.
The biggest week in American birding is finally here, and it is going to send thousands of people flocking to the shores of Lake Erie, really right at the peak of the bird migration season that has now reached into northern Ohio. That typically begins in the first week of May and extends several weeks through the middle to end of May. Now, it is going to be a little on the cooler side for Friday. Highs back into the 60s. Any spotty rain showers likely to stay south of our lakeshore areas. As we look toward warmer conditions, that's going to be arriving as we go toward the middle of May, which could send temperatures at or above average, warming back through the 70s. The biggest week in American birding, a big deal across Northwest Ohio. We're so excited to welcome thousands of people here to Northwest Ohio as that annual bird migration picks up through the month of May.
Obviously a major event that happens here every week. And as the chief there just said, weather probably looking good.
Looking good and plays a big role for us. If we can get a southerly wind, that brings a lot of birds northward. And sometimes, though, if that wind turns around, the birds are forced to stay on the shoreline of Lake Erie. So you actually, in some ways, does kind of help locally.
Very exciting stuff. Thousands of people from all over the place come here to see those birds.
Great for our area.
Well, if you've noticed your car covered in yellow dust, you're not alone.
That's right. Pollen counts are climbing across the area. And for a lot of the people, so are the sneezing fits.
From itchy eyes to constant coughing, Jeff Smith takes a look at why this time of year can be so miserable for allergy sufferers.
You know what? Having allergies this time of the year blows. And just when you think you've got it figured out, turns out maybe not. So check this out. Allergists say pollen sticks to things like hairspray, lotions, sunscreen, meaning if you're layering that stuff on, you might also be layering on pollen. And this is where I had a moment because I always spray or lotion sunscreen outside, right? I don't want the fumes in the house, don't want it coating everything. But apparently, I'm walking outside, spraying my skin, lathering up, and basically creating a skin glue for every allergen floating around. Therein lies the rub. Well, here's what they say helps. They say, let sunscreen and lotion dry before you go out. Duh. Skip sticky products like hairspray when pollen is high. Sunglasses or a hat. Less pollen in your eyes, less on your hair. Makes sense. And when you get home, shower it off. So yeah, you're trying to protect your skin from the sun, and accidentally you're inviting pollen to the party. Allergy season just here, keeping us humble.
Allergies can be tough. Either of you experience allergies?
Not much for me.
I didn't think I did up until maybe a couple of years ago. If we get like a really big pollen sort of day and I spend a lot of time outside, I found myself like the next day a little more congested and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do suffer a little bit from it. So not something I'd ever experienced before.
Well, that's what happens when you get older.
Yay.
Which we're all doing. That's fine.
Absolutely. Well, if you can get it in between the rain, the sound of lawnmowers is pretty much the soundtrack of the neighborhood.
And for a lot of people, there's nothing better than the smell of freshly cut grass.
But it turns out meteorologist Kaylee Bowers found out that fresh spring smell is actually part of a scientific response from the grass itself.
You know that smell right after you mow the grass? That super fresh green scent? That's actually a distress signal. When grass is cut, it releases chemicals called green leaf volatiles. It's basically the plant reacting to being damaged. Those compounds are what create that fresh, strong scent we notice. Some scientists think it can help attract nearby plants and insects to help protect it. That smell we love, it's actually grass reacting to being cut.
Love the smell of freshly cut grass. I smelled it this morning.
Did
you smell that?
Yeah. Yes, and it made us happy instantly. But
Yeah, so I don't know what it does for the grass, but it makes me happy. So
Yeah. So we'll take it.
Yeah.
I think it's a sign of
warmer weather.
Of warmer weather.
Yes.
And so I think that's why not only does it smell good, but it
Sure.
kind of does something in our head.
it
where it's
evokes
like,
memories, right?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, there
That's
you
the
go.
endorphins going.
Very scientific.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Have you ever wanted to drive a bus?
No.
Brian?
Kind of. Well, you know, former WTOL anchor Jerry Anderson for a number of years drove a school bus.
That's right.
So he would tell me stories a little bit about it, and I kind of do want to, yeah.
Okay.
I just don't want to be in charge of anybody else on the bus.
That's
if it's
fair.
an empty bus,
I don't want you to be either.
We'll get you on an obstacle course then. So TARDA's gave some people the opportunity to do just that, drive the bus and actually get behind the wheel.
It was a chance for people who may never drive a big bus like this to learn about careers in transit, talk with recruiters, and even take one for a test drive.
We are bringing people from the community who are interested in a career in public service, who would like to join Team TARDA, and we want them to get behind the wheel and drive a bus. It's a really good way for them to familiarize themselves with something that they've seen around town, and it's actually really empowering to get behind the wheel and drive this huge bus, and it gives you, I think, an additional respect for what the employees do on a day-to-day basis, because it's fun, but it is hard to drive a bus. What we are looking for is people who are committed to public service, who care about our community, who really are committed to the people who drive the bus. You help them get to really important events like work, doctor's appointments, school. All we need is for them to be 21 years of age, to have an active driver's license, and they can get behind the wheel.
I kind of want to do it. Oh,
Well, Heather and I got to do it.
I did not see this. We made a fun little image of you two, what it would be like if you two were driving. The most accurate part about this photo is me being in the back saying,
You're
you guys
terrified.
are crazy.
That's right. And we're both driving the bus together.
It's a twofer.
Well, I think one's supervising. Sophia, apparently you need supervision.
100%, especially when it comes to parking. Heather, you and I might have to switch spots there. You can park the bus.
I
can't
could
park.
parallel park it.
Perfect.
You
Yeah.
think so?
Oh gosh, maybe not a bus, unless it's got a backup camera.
Okay.
I can do it then.
Do you think the TARDA buses have backup cams?
I hope so.
Let's get behind the wheel and find out.
Okay.
Well, we want to wish all the moms out there a very happy Mother's Day.
And it's always fun to surprise mom with something special.
And wait until you see the reaction.
Happy Mother's Day.
Oh my gosh, that was so sweet.
So those are Heather's.
Those are my two boys. Where
Oh
did
my-
you find that?
We're not going to get an answer here. Oh, that is so sweet.
Oh my gosh.
How does that make you feel?
Stop, I'm gonna cry.
Oh my gosh. Don't do that.
Stop. That was so sweet.
Well, with Mother's Day this weekend, what are you looking forward to the most?
Rest. The weeks are always so hectic with our schedules and everything, and the weekends are just so, I won't say mellow because the children are just crazy all the time, but it's nice to actually spend quality time with them. So
I was going to ask because both of them had their arms around each other when they said that, which is obviously probably very sweet. Are they always like that?
when there's a camera out, yeah. they know very well what to do when there's a camera and people are looking. They're like, oh, we love each other. They do, but
And then chaos
sometimes
ensues as soon as it goes down.
It's very chaotic.
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
for sure.
Well, Heather, there you are with your mom. Ryan, I see you with your wife and your mom, and
Yep.
then my mom and I are there in the middle. So,
Awesome.
yeah, on behalf of all of us here at WTOL 11, we wish you, all the moms out there, a happy Mother's Day, all the maternal figures, the grandmothers, all the caretakers.
Absolutely. So thanks for hanging out with us on your feed this week.
Remember, the stories don't stop here. You can keep scrolling with us all day on the WTOL 11 app and on our social channels.
For Sophia Pericone, Ryan Weekman, and all of us here at WTOL 11, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time for more of the stories everyone's talking about and the context you won't get anywhere else with just a quick video.